between.
Okay,
No,
they don't
kids
need to make
cannot think
decisions.
critically. They can't.
Yes,
That's
I
the.
agree. But
So they
listen,
don't know. They don't know what you're telling them is the truth or not. They have no idea. You could
okay,
tell
you're
them.
assuming that I'm wrong, and if I am wrong, then yes. But the thing is, okay, as the parent, you have to be a parent. You know better. You have the life experiences, and you don't go to a doctor's office and ask them if they want a vaccination. You know it's going to hurt them, but in the long run, it's going to be good for them. You explain what is going on, and you give them the shot, and then you comfort them when you cry, but you don't just say, "Hey, do you want the shot or not, the vaccination?" And as a parent, and based on my beliefs, I know that my beliefs and where I stand, and my look what you did. You got
Mm,
me all riled up.
okay, a vaccination. Comparing a
Listen,
vaccination to religious
yes,
indoctrination, I
because
think, is an unfair
yeah, you know
comparison.
what? You're saving a child.
You
Things
can
are
have you can
saving them.
you can have a child grow up well, being a very well mannered,
Yes, I'm
productive
saying,
person, a productive citizen, without having them adhere to the beliefs of a
but
particular religion.
I believe that a child's belief in God will help them in their lives and it will save them. And so, as a parent right now, I'm going to make the decisions based on the best that I can, based on my knowledge, and that's my responsibility as a parent. And right now, my belief is that, yeah, you know what? This knowledge is going to help them that like just like that vaccination would. So as a parent, it is my responsibility to make sure that they have that knowledge, just like they get that vaccination. And you know what? Maybe later on down the road, people might realize that vaccination is no longer necessary or whatever. But based on right now, I feel like you have to make things are always changing, but you have to, wherever you are in life and based on your experiences and understanding, make the best decision for your child. And you can't just say, you know what? There could be a God or there couldn't be a God. You have to give your kids some finite standards
No,
to
you
live
don't,
by.
because then you're
Yes,
stifling. No, you're
no, you
stifling
don't.
creative, critical thinking. You're
No,
stifling
you
free.
don't.
Yes, you are, because
Okay,
you're
you
saying you're not giving the child a chance to examine the world. You're saying, look,
okay,
there is a
you
God,
can
and you
teach
believe
about
it.
religion. And my parents taught me about all different other kinds of religions to make sure where I believe that you need to teach your children and encourage open learning, open dialogue, and to not be narrow-minded. And you also have to give your children room to make decisions based on their experience, their knowledge, and their intellectual ability. And early on, that ability is limited. So as a parent, you have to make your best judgment and make a decision for them. And now, as far as teaching, religion, a child's ability to understand religious concept is definitely dependent upon their age. At first, it's more fairy tale. They can't really differentiate or distinguish between some of these stories. And that's why I feel like so many parents are neglecting their children's spiritual development,
But
or
you're
are
working with the
just
premise. You're working with the premise that spiritual development is necessary
yes, because I believe in God,
because
and
you
that's
believe in God.
yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Do you realize how
and
that doesn't necessarily translate to everybody else in the world? That maybe people can get by without a
yes,
belief in God,
but either he exists or he doesn't. There's no in between here. There's no
and he
shade of
doesn't.
gray here. I know that's where you say, and you know what? And the fact that you say that you don't believe, I listen to what you have to say. I listen to your opinions, and sometimes I think they're really good, and other times I think you're full.
Go ahead, say it.
But I listen. But the fact is, I grew up learning religious principles, but also learning to listen and to think for myself. And I think that is what parents need to be doing. I'm not just going to teach my children, there's nothing else, and this is exactly how it is. Because you know what? I don't know exactly how it works. I don't know exactly how God works or anything. Who am I to think that I understand it all?
So
And so
would you
I'm not,
impose?
I'm just saying, I'm going to teach my children certain basic principles and foundations, but I'm also going to teach them to have an open mind, to think critically, to be observant of the people's beliefs around them, and to listen and take them into consideration.
So if your little
I'm not
5-year-old says, "Look, mom,"
yeah,
if your 5-year-old says,
yeah,
"Look, mom, I don't believe in this God. I don't believe that Joseph Smith was a prophet. I don't believe in that Jesus was the savior. I think he was a good guy. He was just a Jewish
okay.
carpenter."
I don't think a 5-year-old child is ever going to think that. Now, if a 16-year-old child had that same
But
conversation,
let's say, for the sake of argument, a 5-year-old did say that.
okay,
Let's say a 5-year-old could see through the BS of most religious stories and said, "Look,
mm-hmm.
Mom, I don't believe these." You could have a very precocious child. Who knows?
I probably will.
Yes, exactly. How are you going to handle it? You're just going to accept the fact that, look, all of the 5 years that you've spent trying to impose your beliefs upon your child are a wash because the kid sees through it. You're just going to accept that.
Um, no. Okay.
So then you're not really
Wait,
allowing the kid to think
wait,
critically.
because they're 5. A 5-year-old does not know what they want.
Exactly. So why are you telling them?
Hey, listen, okay, so like I mentioned, hold on, let me just finish the thought here. Like I mentioned, I feel like we live in a world full of shades of gray. But children need black and white. They need structure, they need routine. They are not emotionally or intellectually able to understand all those different shades of gray. Studies have shown that children are happier when they have rules, they have parameters and guidelines. They feel more comfortable and secure. So kids do need to be allowed to make some decisions in order to learn to think in terms of actions and consequences. But the amount of the choices that you give to them needs to just gradually increase. You don't just automatically say, hey, you can make all these decisions for yourself. You might start with, you can decide what dessert options you want when you're 5, but you can't decide if you want to go to church or not. You're going to church when you're 5 years old with me, okay? And now if you're 16 and you have that same argument, our discussion would be different. Now, so you need to slowly let your children make more decisions, but you also need to teach them that their decisions have consequences. And so, like if a 5-year-old says, or a 7-year-old says, hey, I don't want to do my homework, are you going to let her just not do her homework?
You're making unfair arguments. Look,
I'm just saying that you can, just because a child...
You're building what's called a straw man argument. You can't validate those two. You can't compare those two arguments.
Okay, I'm saying that at that age, kids don't know what's good for them. They don't know what they need.
But you do?
Yes, you do, because you're a parent.
No, but okay.
And I think that you can't let your child at such a young age determine what they think is best. I mean, okay, so here's maybe an example.
Can you prove your child that what you believe is actually true?
No. But you know what the funny thing is? Children are much more sensitive to spiritual things.
Children also believe anything you tell them.
Apparently, your mama didn't teach you very well.
Look around the world. Apparently, you are looking with shutters on your eyes or blinders.
I don't feel like I am.
Kids believe in Santa Claus because their parents tell them that Santa Claus exists. They see Santa Claus at the mall. There's at least tangible proof that Santa Claus exists. There's no tangible proof that God exists.
And you know how often I hear a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, they're so young and they see through it and they don't believe in Santa Claus anymore.
No, they don't believe because their friends tell them. If you were to tell your child that God doesn't exist either, they would believe you because children believe what they're told.
Yes, they do believe what they're told.
They cannot think critically.
Yes, exactly. And because they can't think critically, you have to teach them the basics.
So they don't know to question whether or not God exists or whether or not your beliefs are actually valid. They don't understand that. They can't.
So we're talking about two different premises based on, once again, like every other conversation we ever have, either there is or there is not a God, and that determines and impacts our opinion on this topic. And from my stances, I'm saying.
Look, it's like you're allowing your kids to think critically, but only through the filter of your beliefs.
That's not true.
Do you understand that?
No, I told you, if I had the same conversation, if I had a 5-year-old come up and say, I don't believe in God, I would say, sweetie, you're too young to know what you want. If my 16-year-old came up and said that, I would sit down and have a very long conversation with them. Well, why do you believe that? What do you think? I would try to help them see through and what I have found in my personal struggles with faith, because I'm sure that what they are thinking, I've been there before. And that's what parenting is to help guide and direct your child down a path that's going to take them to where they're going to have good, fulfilling lives.
And you can do that without religion. That's the point I'm trying to say. You can have a great, productive life and be a great person without religion. You're basically saying, look, you have to have religion in your life. Otherwise, you're not going to have a fulfilling life.
You know what?
Because for you, it's one or the other. You either have religion in your life and it's fulfilling, or it's not. And you're saying that you have to teach your kids the religious principles and values because that's the only way they're going to have a good life.
I'm not saying that you have to teach. I'm not saying you have to teach your child a certain set of principles. I'm saying as a parent, if you have a certain set of beliefs, it is your responsibility to teach them those things. And obviously, you're not going to teach your child something that you don't. A religious parent is not teaching their child religious topics just to.
I've mentioned before a philosopher I really, really admire. His name is Daniel Dennett.
Yes.
He's a philosopher at Tufts University. And he's written a number of books, really great books. Breaking the Spell is one of, I think, a mesmerizing book.
Yes.
There's actually a section in Breaking the Spell where Dr. Dennett talks about, he has a one policy proposal, which is, and I wholeheartedly agree with this. And if I can get you on board with this.
A one policy? Okay, so what is it?
So his policy is this, that basically kids should have education in world religions.
Yes.
All children, public schools, private schools, should have some homeschooling, need to be educated in all religions of the world, under the guise that it's just facts about religions, the creeds about religions, the texts, the music, the symbolism, the prohibitions, the requirements. No spiritualism, no dogma, just the basic facts. And then and only then can you feel free to impart whatever dogma you wish to upon your child, whatever faith in which you're raised that you think your child will benefit from, whether it's Mormonism or you're Protestant, whatever it is. But first, you have to teach them in a very matter-of-fact manner about every religion of the world. This is what they believe. These are their texts. This is the Quran. This is the Torah. This is the Bible. Whatever it is, but you have to teach them all the religions first, so they have some basis of understanding that their religion is not the only one in the world. So they're not going to feel like they're being segregated, because that's, I think, a huge problem. Is that, and maybe you're going to be an exception, and you're saying that you're going to raise your kids to be open and critically minded and to be accepting. But most people, and you cannot disagree with this, most people, when they teach their kids religious dogma, are basically imparting segregation. They're saying, look, you're a Catholic.
Yeah, and they're saying we're right and everyone else is wrong.
Yes.
Yes. No, I agree.
So
I understand.
if we adhere to this policy that every child, age 4, 5, whatever.
You think a little preschool child can understand all the world religions at that age?
But you expect a child to understand what you're going to tell them?
No, I'm saying I'm not teaching that. I'm not letting them know that there are all these possibilities. Pick one. I'm saying, hey,
no. Dr. Dennis is not saying pick one. He's saying just teach. You're not getting it. Just teach it like a history class. Teach it just the facts, the text, the creeds, all of it.
No, I do think that's a good idea.
But then, and only then, are you allowed as a parent to make your child believe whatever you believe.
To make your child believe whatever you believe?
Well, you're just talking about, this whole argument's been about you making your child believe what you believe. Yes. That's what indoctrination is. Indoctrination is making your child believe your religious beliefs.
We're going to have the same conversation like 15 years once we both have kids.
Well, once you have kids. I'm not. But do you understand the basis for his argument?
Yes, I do understand.
And why it's important, why it's valid and critical.
And yes, and I do feel like a lot of people, they do pass on this. I mean, even Mormons are guilty of the same thing, I think, sometime. Of we're right, and like I mentioned, my beliefs are my beliefs alone. They're not reflective of the Mormon Church in any way.
But you realize that as a child, you weren't starting with a blank slate.
No, I wasn't. And I do understand that.
And that's not fair, because look, democracy depends upon an informed citizenship, informed consent.
Yes.
But informed is the key element there. If kids aren't taught that 1,000 other religions exist and have existed, and there have been thousands of gods that have existed over time, that early Egyptians believed in the sun god Ra, or Greeks believed in Zeus and Poseidon, Vikings believed in Thor. You have to have a kid who is taught all of these principles of all the other religious doctrines that have existed and still continue to exist to this day before you can impart upon them your particular views and beliefs. You're not imparting. You're not saying, look, you have to be a Hindu for a week. All I'm saying is you have to tell them about the different religions of the world in a very factual manner. Just the facts, not the spiritualism or the dogma.
I think that is a great idea to teach your children about world religions as a history course. But I also think you do need to teach children the basic fundamentals of and belief in God. Okay, so like I mentioned, just let me finish one thought. I think religion offers a context for deeper meaning and understanding. And yes, I recognize that you feel like that deeper meaning and understanding